Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and yes, well, here's a little bit of an explanation I wanted to give you guys, because if all things go according to plan, you guys are watching this literally on the Sunday, and why? Because we don't like Mondays. Also because, as I promised you guys, by the end of... I was going to say by the end of this year, I want to completely have wrapped up everything there is to talk about Chris. Except, maybe on this channel certainly, but what we're going to do, guys, is that I am actually going to treat you guys, because I think you guys have been very, very good so far this year, that Saturday and Sunday, you're going to be getting back-to-back episodes of Chris Chan, A Comprehensive History. Now, I understand there is only about 11 of these left, so for the next 5 weeks, you guys are going to get your fill, alright? So, I hope all of you guys are doing well. And last time, ladies and gentlemen, Jacob tried to fly out, or at least he said he was going to fly out to Charlottesville, which never materialized. And we can only sort of hazard a guess that, well, along with Ben Saint, communications between Jacob and Chris and Ben Saint and Chris have sort of broken down. The mod for Sonic Mania to include Sonichu has also been dropped by the creators following a single interaction on a live stream. And this is also the first episode in which we actually get introduced to Helena G. Forenza, who I've made mention of a few times before, but that's not what we're here for. We are here to see what goes wrong now, because if memory serves me correctly, there was something about like a, oh yeah, oh this is the, yeah, okay, sorry, I picked the wrong one. Yeah, apparently this is the quote-unquote, the April Fool's Day episode. So this is the real one we're looking for, because for those who don't remember, Gino made a bit of a did a bit of a funny joke towards like something about there was an alternative ending for the for Chris's story, when we know that's not what happened. So now we move on to the actual part 74. Let's go.
What made it this way? What is the attraction? What keeps us fascinated? This is the story of Chris Chan.
You know, it's kind of hard to believe that Chris's story might possibly only end by the time she dies, which could be in 20 years, it could be in 20 days for all we know.
On October 15th, 2019, Christine shared a link on Twitter to a page on the fundraising site GoFundMe, which aimed to gather funds for her trip to the My Little Pony-themed convention, BabsCon. A Twitter user asked why did she not get a job instead to make money, to which she wrote that she was unemployable because of online haters, and that she was already constantly employed as a goddess.
Terrific start, this, isn't it? No, the reason why you're unemployed, Chris, and you are completely unhireable is because your background checks, the things that you've said about people, the things you've done, your criminal history, your propensity to get completely unhinged over things that absolutely do not matter, and the fact that, well, as it's been speculated for a while now, your grasp on reality is at best tenuous, at worst it is the sort of thing that would suggest you're not fit to actually go outside anymore. Not unless you are on a leash.
The Twitter user returned to reply that she would be fine if she left the internet and got a job pushing trolleys at a supermarket, and that she was not unhireable, but lazy instead. Chris wrote back that she was not lazy, but busy instead. Kristen blocked her critic. At the same time, Artist Ben Saint continued to develop his comic story to focus on slime and slime-based characters, much to the dislike of Chris, who told him to go back to making stories about Saint's original characters, Phantom Horn and Strawberry Milk. On October 16th, Chris's devout follower and love interest, Jacob Sockness, proposed that she should remove all tiers on her Patreon, wherein people paid less than $20 per month, because it was uneconomical. He then vowed to pay for the orders himself, disregarding his trip to her house to instead try help her get the household out of debt. Later that day, Christine notified her paying supporters on Patreon that she managed to catch up with back orders of Sonichu comic books to be sent to her patrons, though she skipped the personally signed requests. As recompense for those who had paid for signed copies of her books, she would send to them her custom-made Sonichu-themed expansion pack.
Oh, and by the way, in case you haven't noticed, yes, by the way, for giving Chris $2 a month, you get nothing, by the way. That should be a blanket statement right there, guys, about how, well, that should be an immediate red flag for anyone who's going on Patreon. When they straight up say that if you give me minimum $2 a month, you get nothing. Is it me, or is that not a good idea?
Copies of her books, she would send to them her custom-made Sonichu-themed expansion pack for the MLP-themed trading card game Twilight Sparkle's Secret Ship Fic folder.
Question: what if you don't like the game? What if you're not interested in the game? And what if it's specifically what you didn't ask for? Not only is Chris not willing to give people for minimum $2 a month, now Chris is straight up saying you're getting you're getting something different. If Chris did this on eBay, her overall ranking would drop to below 85%, which, again, if you long-time users of eBay, if you get to like below 85%, you're basically deemed a scam artist, which, to be honest, yeah. Funny story. About 5 years ago, tell me if you guys ever fell into this trap as well, and you wanted to try and improve your education, but you decided not to use Skillshare, and instead you were suckered into this website called Shaw Academy, and how if like you paid for a subscription, you'd be able to use the courses and stuff like that. Yet despite this, when you ask for a refund because they didn't issue what they'd promised, they said, no, we'll give you a lifetime subscription instead. And, well, I'm pretty sure Shaw Academy must have, like, took to their heels and ran, because I think the site's been out of action for nearly 3.5 years now. So, yeah, just, sometimes you gotta know exactly what you're getting into, eh? Also, my keyboard is, like, gaps of it just filled with grime.
During this time, Christine continued to busy herself creating more original cards based around the Sonichu universe, including one dedicated to Sturban Chu, a Sonichu created by the Idea Guys, and Robert Chu. The Idea Guys influenced Sonichu incarnation of her father, Bob Chandler. On October 19th, Chris commented on an update to a comic created by one of her enablers, Rosie Lilichu, which focused on Lilichu's original character, Liliana, writing that she would prefer to see more than the 1 page per month of the story as was declared by the artist. Also on that day, a user on
God almighty, if Chris is now starting to get on people's backs about uploading 1 page per month to Patreon, imagine what would happen if Chris strikes me as the sort of person who would go on to Powell Comics and literally start whipping people into shape just because sometimes people wouldn't upload pages for as much as like 10 days or maybe even like 3 weeks in it or something like that. And bear in mind, I don't even know what them on Powell, what like writers and stuff like that on Powell Comics even get paid. If anything, I don't know.
On Reddit posted about his and his brother's experience with meeting Christine when they surprised her with a visit to her home, posting a photo they took together. He mentioned that she smelled a little like marijuana, though it is unconfirmed whether she was partaking in the substance again at that time. The Reddit user later posted an audio recording of their meeting on YouTube.
Hey, you Christian Chandler?
Yes.
Hello. We live in the area. Sorry to bother you, but we've been fans for a few years and stuff, and
Thank you.
thought we'd kind of give some gifts.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
That's very nice.
Yeah, it's nice to meet you, dude.
Yeah. It's nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyway, how you been?
Been doing all right.
That's cool.
Been doing very well, you know, just having to cope with the events of the
Yeah,
marriage and everything.
I heard about the situation with the guy. I'm sorry to hear about that.
Oh, well, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
It's all cool.
We're all looking out for your best interests, and you definitely have our support, so.
Thank you. I love your blue eyes.
Oh, appreciate it. I like your blue and green eyes. They're really cool. That's awesome. Yeah. So, anyway, is it cool if you get a selfie or something, or?
Later that day, according to messages she sent to her friend via Discord, Chris's mother, Barbara, began experiencing high blood pressure and asked to be taken to the emergency room of a hospital, where it was determined that there was nothing wrong with her. Chris believed it was a combination of stress and the incoming magic energies of Dimension C-197.
More like dementia.
Also on that day, Jacob Sockness wrote that he was not destined for a normal life, as he was currently chasing after his love, who was also a goddess, over the internet. Chris wrote that she too would not have a normal life, asking what normal truly meant. Jacob then shared a photo.
Who knows? I don't fucking know. Also, Supreme Dark Chocolate, they call it. It doesn't even taste like chocolate, to be honest. It tastes like somebody set fire to a wheelie bin. I'll still eat it, though.
Of two individuals cosplaying as the Marvel character Deadpool and horror movie icon Michael Myers, respectively, asking if he and Chris could kiss like that during their attendance at BabsCon. Christine replied that she did not want to cosplay as Deadpool or a zombie, but was open to kissing Sockness in the future. Sockness then posted photos of certification certifying that he was free of sexually transmitted diseases for her. At around the same time, Twitter user Righteous...
It'd be pretty hard to if you were still a virgin, though, but I have no idea if Sockness is a virgin or not. I don't know, and it's not really my... I've got no interest to know either.
For Quick, a supporter of Chris, posted a combined photo of himself wearing a Michael Myers mask with makeup on, and Christine standing against the transgender flag, taking part in the Twitter hashtag campaign to declare that trans rights were human rights. Righteous later created his own card for Twilight Sparkle's secret chipfic folder depicting himself, and directed Chris to it on Twitter, but did not receive a response. On October 25th, she received her new custom-ordered decks of cards for the MLP-themed game containing the cards she designed. Also on that day, she discovered on her front porch the book The Legend of the 10 Elemental Masters by Alalilia, a game developer who had gained online notoriety amongst forum subcultures some 10 years prior due to his eccentricities. Finally, on that day, Chris criticized Matt Groening and Seth MacFarlane, the creators of the animated series The Simpsons and Family Guy, respectively, for maintaining the unaging and youthful appearances of their characters when they have in fact grown up since their conception. Lisa Simpson, for example, was allegedly an adult by then who was set to become the next president of the United States in 2020. She claimed the creators were doing so for monetary gain, and it was criminal of them to mischronicle their OCs. Chris admitted that she used to act the same, but was reconciling, making amends, and dealing with...
Can I ask a question then? If that's true, then surely for Chris, the logical thing to do is to purge yourself of anything Simpsons related and Family Guy related. Or even anything anything that was credited by Matt Groening whatsoever. Because logically, why would you want to stand side by side with someone who you felt doing stuff like this for military gain was okay? That's including like American Dad as well. Yeah, don't you think that makes sense? I wonder why Chris decided whether or not Chris would actually want to go through with this, I'm assuming Chris isn't going to make much comment.
Many original characters across dimensions. On October 26th, Christine livestreamed on YouTube for 91 minutes, playing the card game Twilight Sparkle's Secret Ship Fic folder, utilizing her own custom-made expansion decks of cards.
It took me a long time to set all this up, you know, just... so yeah, as you can see, I have a few lovely big boxes for my Secret Ship Fic folder cards now. That's how tall this pony deck is gonna be. The 1 out of 3 decks, it's gonna be this big. Now that's a mighty meaty sandwich. But yeah, I'm pretty much gonna demonstrate a game of Twilight Sparkle's Secret Ship Fic folder, albeit played solitaire, which I have been able to figure out recently. In case you're wondering what that was, that's our cat, Baby. Our gold cat, Baby. He has a bit of a nasal problem. We're taking him to the vet. He's all right. Okay? We're taking care of him. So don't ask about that. Don't troll me about that. Do not troll me about that.
I don't understand what about the welfare of cats could be considered trolling, Chris. You know, the reason why trolls and other people alike would have been concerned is because, guess what? Chris has this unhealthy habit of taking in cats and then dying under his care, under her care. I'd just like to remind everybody that it was almost an entire year previously that Chris took in 3 kittens and one of them died when they were in her care. Bear in mind, Chris also posted pictures about cats being mutilated, claiming that it was their dog's fault, and Chris went back on it for did it also for monetary gains. So forget the whole thing about Matt Groening and Seth MacFarlane for 1 second. Let's not forget, ladies and gentlemen, that Chris does a lot of really messed up things for monetary gain as well. So what am I supposed to think? Having a Patreon tier where you get absolutely nothing, but is doing that is there's no motivation behind that whatsoever except specifically for monetary gain. So Chris literally does not have a single leg left to stand on. And I thought literally getting up to this point and saying that Chris doesn't have a leg to stand on was far enough. But no, there would have been maybe one leg back in, I don't know, maybe part 6 or 7 or something like that. But we get to part 70 with 11 years later and there's still... Basically what I'm trying to say is Chris has no more legs left.
Hey, man. Whee! That happened. There's one!
Okay, and also, by the way, in case you're also wondering, and because I had the misfortune of actually watching this live stream back in the day, pre-record, well, when it was over and stuff like that, and one thing you do sort of notice that happens a lot in this live stream is Chris starts making, very concerning, sporadic noises. The sort of noises that we know Chris has done before, but these ones seem almost they don't even seem reactionary anymore. They just seem to be that they are completely spontaneous and random, which I don't know if that's a serious deterioration, but then again, whether this is also played for the camera or not is, I honestly couldn't tell you, because there have been live streams after this where Chris seems to have some cognitive dissonance left to keep her senses under control. So you tell me what this is all about. Maybe stress could possibly be a way to explain it, but well, that would have to be somebody who actually has medical records and stuff like that. Curiously enough, the film Joker came out right about at the exact same time as this, or at the very least, this is when I went to see it anyway. God, I love that movie. I know a lot of people don't like the sequel, but I don't know. I'll see for myself by the time I watch it. So let's continue.
Oh boy. Okay, let's do a shotgun wedding now between Romeo and Sturdy. What? Sylvia. There's our cat, Sylvia. Stay off the table. And you can see how big this shipping grid can get, and this is why you need a card table, or, you know, where the center point is an arm's length. I will see. Stay off the table. Thank you. Okay, game over.
And yes, Barbara literally just picks up their... How old was Lucy by this point? Like 14-year-old cat. And just yeets it onto the floor. I know fine well people aren't exactly that sorry for Barbara either. And, well, neither am I. So the feeling's neutral, as ever.
Of course, it's more fun when you got more than one player, and you're essentially clearing ships off of the board. Especially when you got one this full. This is full.
I have a heavy bag here for you to put in the trash.
I'll get to you in a moment, Mom. I love you. I love you all. Be safe. See you next time. Bye-bye. Boop.
At the same time, QB Farms user Duff conducted an interview with Ellie Hirschberg, who had created several fundraising campaigns to fund Christine's travels. Hirschberg wrote that he loved Jacob Sockness and was waiting on Chris's permission to engage in a 3-person polyamorous relationship involving himself, Chris.
Sorry about that little intermittent break there. Anyway, let's go.
Ali said that he was banned from QB Farms for his dedication to Christine, and that he fully believed in the dimensional merge after Christine gifted him with special powers, which allowed his third eye to begin opening. Publicly, Hirschberg hoped to save enough money to attend BabsCon in California and meet with Christine, calling her his friend who gave him his psychic abilities. On October 27th, a Twitter user whose original character was made into a Twilight Sparkle's secret chipfic folder card revealed that they had played the card game in person with Christine, who gifted them a selection of the cards. Chris also sent cards to other Twitter acquaintances whose OCs were depicted in her custom decks. This included Jacob Sockness, who received 2 cards for the game, as well as a greeting card proposing her love for him, in which she wrote that her mother, Barbara, was holding onto a dolphin necklace that Sockness had sent to her, and that his donated money was used on fresh food. The next day, Chris shared the discovery of a convenience store called 812, riffing on the 7-Eleven convenience store chain. Since it was located in Jersey, the purported location of Gotham City of the DC Comics universe, she took it as a sign of the oncoming dimensional merge. She then went to her Magichan account and posed as her supposed husband and shared the recent convenience store tweet Chris wrote herself, confirming further signs of the merge. Christine then reasoned with a Twitter user who reasoned that Gotham could not be merged because it was not located in Dimension C-197, since she had mentioned the World Trade Center Twin Towers existed in the aforementioned dimension, yet were not referred to in any work from DC Comics. Chris argued that the Twin Towers in the alternate dimension fell long before, and that they were not mentioned in the comics because they were not properly chronicled. She then took back her previous claims and stated that the Twin Towers never existed in C-197, attributing her misspeaking to everything happening that day, making her mind, body, and soul busy. The enablers, Sarah and Steve, then proclaimed that they were frightened after Christine's recent posts regarding the coming merge. She came to quell their concerns. Jacob then wrote that he dreamed of Christine, the most heavenly goddess, and his beautiful one true love, every night, for she was the only one who could soothe the soul of a fire-breathing dragon that was himself. Chris admitted that she may have the power to tame such a dragon god, but confessed that Jacob was not one, and merely a sorcerer and channeler, closing by telling him she had a rough and active day, and was too tired to think. At the same time, Righteous for Quick posted a short looping clip of himself feeling cute after sending prayers to Christine. The next day, a user on Reddit posted a drawing that Chris made of her alleged neighbor and his cat on September 1st, 2018, claiming to share it online for the first time, though it had been posted on QB Farms shortly after its creation. On October 31st, Chris noted for her followers that it was Halloween, writing that the dimensional iron curtain between dimensions was really thin. During that same day, her online friend and enabler, Maker Nightvy, argued with Ben Saint about his continued use of Chris's characters and using his comics to mess with her. Saint angrily rejected Maker's claims, writing that he was writing an important story. Christine came to Ben's defense, revealing that even before he began writing about the events of the comic, her character Nightstar had already met with Saint's characters Phantom Horn and Strawberry Milk and sent them to investigate the slime situation. She elaborated that herself and even her family were already involved with the situation, and Ben was only drawing and sharing the events as he was fated to do, though he was criticized for deviating into an alternate timeline where he explored other themes she didn't like.
It's also kind of ironic, funny actually, guys, when you think about it. Ben Saint allowed to actually write the stories he wants because it's his story and not Christine's. What a surprise! And yet again, we run into a situation where Christine is wrongfully under the impression that she thinks she is such a higher presence at this point that she is now, again, like I said, under the impression anything she says goes. Thank goodness, but let's pray that Chris never really found out what Pow Comics is. Because I don't even think the people on Pow Comics would even think about doing like a Sonichu themed parody comic. Even like no, especially people on Pow Comics or Mobius 34 or whatever it is. Even they would think Chris was a scumbag.
Nevertheless, those
not without good reason.
events too were apparently fated to happen. Later on, Sockness tweeted at Chris a photo of a significant collection of free condoms. Chris did not respond. Maker Nightvy asked her directly if Jacob was visiting her, as he had previously pledged he would. She replied that he was not coming to her house at that time. On November 1st, Righteous for Quick posted a doctored photo of himself in full Michael Myers attire and another individual at a Halloween party, with Christine photoshopped in to stand beside him, wishing that he could meet her. Chris did not respond to his post. Also on that day, Sarah and Steve publicly defended Jacob Sockness, as he had confessed to saying threatening things while angry and was ultimately not a risk or danger to anyone. Chris agreed with their statement. Sarah and Steve then suggested that devoted followers and believers of Christine may call themselves Quickens, who practice Quickenism. Chris commented that like archivers and students of her activities, or Christorians, her religious-like followers should also have a dedicated term to call themselves. She reflected that Christians and Buddhists were named after the leading figures of their religions, but in Chris's case, she identified as many things, such as console patron unit, possible goddess to the Sonichu and Rosechu species of Pokemon, as well as a possessor of a slew of other powers in dimensions 1218 and C197.
And to think, guys, I know I've hopped on this before, but just 10 years ago, Chris was merely hopping on the idea that somebody was trying to impersonate him. Even though anybody would have just stopped talking about it the second. And this was also like during that same sort of period when, speaking of the Twin Towers, it was nearly 10 years since Chris made that video trying to get one over on Clyde Cash by making a very tasteless joke about the Twin Towers. I wonder if Chris is going to bring... No, of course he won't bring that up again, but I feel like it's... And bear in mind, that was part 18 or 19 or whenever the hell that happened. And we've come way too far, and we are way too far out at sea to start wondering what dry land looked like ever again. We are heading to the top, guys, and but the problem is that the elevator don't go there, brother.
After thinking about the topic further, she concluded that Quickenism did not sound right for her, eventually considering the terms followers of Christian Sonichu, fox, and foquix as possibilities, but felt that her followers could come up with something better. She soon after checked the thesaurus and found devotee as a suitable synonym for worshipper, thusly creating the term devotees of Christian Sonichu, or docs. On November 2nd, Christine tweeted about the vision she had in which her mother, Barbara, was not part Sonichu or Rosechu, and that after a few years, she would pass on and be reincarnated as a special female Rosechu. Also on that day, QB Farms user, The American Hedgehog, posted 3 newly made Twilight Sparkles secret chipfic folder cards that were shared with him by some unknown Twitter followers of Chris. 2 of these featured photographs of interiors and exteriors of her house, with drawings of her alleged spouses, Sylvana Rosechu and Mewtwo, superimposed over them. The third featured a background image of Barbara standing in a room with her past husband, Bob Chandler, in his Sonichu form, seemingly standing next to her.
Seemingly.
On November 3rd, Jacob Sockness shared an article which claimed that the Kiwi Farms willingly hosted future killers and had led to the suicides of 4 individuals, branding Joshua Moon, or Null, the site's administrator, the possible devil in the flesh. Chris then responded to Sockness's claims regarding QB Farms, noting that not everyone on the site was evil, and there was some genuine good among the remainder. However, she did apparently recognize that there was evil in Null's eyes, and thought it best for people to begin to take down the QB Farms permanently. Sarah and Steve then attempted to create a rift between Chris.
Again, you know what? There will come a time when I do like a long form video about Kiwi Farms, because I don't dissuade that there is some there are some shady things that do happen on the site, but I do also want to specify that, again, remember when Chris burnt her house down and what Noel did to and Chris's response? Yeah, bear that in mind when you think that Noel is the devil in the flesh, considering, you know, because the letter that Noel wrote to Chris actually was incredibly endearing, and, well, as we're about to see in about 11 episodes' time, among many other things, because that is going to take about an entire week to talk about everything that happens. But let's get back on track, shall we?
Christine and Maker Nightvie, after Maker asked Jacob about Null's actions, conceivably as a means to develop a closer relationship to Sockness, who was being encouraged by Maker and others to be thought of as an untrustworthy individual. Jacob further wrote that his cross-dimensional alter ego, Michiro, proclaimed Maker Nightvie was worse than the evil demon Jacoba, acting like a manipulative demon. Christine wrote that she understood the claims and that Maker's future actions would determine her true intentions. Her recent comments drew concern from Maker and her other online friends, who were cautious of Chris being manipulated into thinking certain detrimental things, like during the Idea Guy saga, and being driven away from the people who had her best intentions at heart. Christine claimed to understand their concerns, and only wished for them to denounce QB Farms and escape Null's deceptive grasp, though her friends stated that most of them did not have any connection to the farms, and only wished for her to willingly see that she was being manipulated by someone who was driving her true friends away. Sarah and Steve then posted screenshots of private messages they had with Chris to prove that her account had not been hacked, which featured a new photograph of herself, solemnly looking at the camera, with her signature lightning bolt, blue heart, lightning bolt emoji insignia lightly drawn onto her forehead. The enabling pair commented that there appeared to be sadness in her eyes. Christine wrote back that she had just woken up for the day, making the post at 12:51 p.m. local time.
What?
Later on, Maker Nightvie denied supporting the Führer of Nazi Germany, Adolf Hitler, as alleged by Sockness, accusing Sockness of believing such things. Her followers proposed that Jacob was trying to create a divide between her and Chris so that he could control and exploit Christine. Chris wrote that Jacob did not make those previous statements himself, but rather the demon Jacoba speaking through his body during a channeling session. She stated that Maker needed to affirm her good intentions by working with Sarah and Steve. Jacob.
So, Yeah, okay, so yes, if you are, guys, listen, I'm gonna just pause here, I'm gonna say this for the record. If you are a little bit confused about what's going on, that's a good question. If you are wondering what is going on, that's a good question. So as far as I can work out, Chris is trying to rationalize the idea that Jacob Sockness is trying to cause problems by saying that Sarah and Steve is on Sockness's half, and MKR Night V is just trying to make sure that Chris is not taken advantage of again. Why Chris is I'm getting a little bit. Let's start again. So Christopher Christian Western Chandler was born in 1982. Okay, we're not going that far back.
Joined the discourse to state that he was archiving the religions and history of Kidasuna, the alien world purportedly located within the Andromeda Galaxy, the texts of which contradicted each other often, and that he was using quotes from them while addressing trolls. Maker replied that he created Kidasuna himself, based on pre-existing ideas. Chris defended Jacob by clarifying that Kidasuna was in fact real in Dimension 1218, and that he did not invent the individuals who lived there, but merely discovered them and established communications. Maker rejected the claim, with Christine further clarifying that Sockness did not create the Andromeda Galaxy, or the individuals who lived there, and that many times his tweets were the result of nefarious characters from Kidasuna channeling through him. Asking her why was the concept difficult to comprehend. Sarah and Steve separately told their followers,
I'll tell you why it's difficult to comprehend, because it's absolute bollocks, that's why.
That Maker Nightv was being manipulated into turning against them and Christine, writing that people did this to everyone who supported Christine. They warned others to recognize the signs and not fall for their tactics. Chris retweeted their message, reminding her audience that people should keep their common sense, wits, and instincts sharp, clear, and calm as possible so that they would not fall for the haters' mind games. Later again, Righteous for Quick posted another doctored image of himself along with other members of the LGBTQ community, with Chris inserted into the group, depicting his supposed dream of himself and Christine the goddess, forming an alliance. On November 5th, Christine went to vote in elections for the Virginia Senate and House of Delegates, posting a photo of her sticker signifying that she had voted. Also on that day, Ali Hirschberg claimed that he was bullied and allegedly beaten by trolls who tried to manipulate Chris and turn her away from him. Their attacks seemingly included beating him up to the point that he required hospital treatment, receiving prank calls, and getting death threats on his social media accounts. Hirschberg was willing to save large amounts of money to ensure that Christine could attend the BabsCon convention so she could meet her love, Jacob Sockness. He wished Christine and Jacob the best. Also on that day, Chris wrote a series of tweets hoping to rectify the rift that was developing between her most trusted supposed friends. Listen, everyone, please. I am very well aware of Jacob and Maker. They both are good people with the same goal of concern of my own health and well-being. Jacob is his own individual, but he is presently still easily manipulated by Jacoba. Magichan and I have been working tough and hard to remedy that. We know everything about all this, and we have plans for counter-defenses and measures should anything bad happen. But know this, I, Christine Weston Chandler Sonichu, CPU Blueheart, am not being manipulated by anyone. I remain grateful and most appreciative of everyone's continued concerns, kindness, and support. But we all need to stop fighting each other, especially in defending our Earths in due time. She further wrote that she was not going to break up any of her friendships or allyships, and highlighted that they should all agree that they needed to defend their Earths from the likes of Null and Jacoba.
Right, okay, so, you know what, Chris, here's the problem with this, Chris, is that if you think No really is the bad guy in all this, then why have you still allowed No access to your emails? Why on earth, Chris, did you just straight up say to Noel during the Idea Guy saga not to get involved when it came to matters of extortion? Why, oh why, Chris, do you go to Noel for advice then, later on? I'll tell you why, Chris. And this is why we won't ever... This is why your advice completely falls on deaf ears. Because, Chris, we know fine well you do not know what you're talking about. I don't know why, Chris, you are under the impression that you know what you're doing. We know you do not know what you're doing. So, why are you trying to... Who are you trying to convince at this time that you know what you're doing? Because I'm not convinced you know what you're doing. Nobody watching this is convinced you know what you're doing. Even when this was happening, nobody was convinced that you knew what you were doing. And you are still too bloody thick to get that.
On November 6th, Chris remade the tweet directing business inquiries to her business email that was being managed by Null to instead ask people to contact her personal AOL email address.
That sounds like a recipe waiting for disaster, that doesn't it?
And also encouraged direct messaging via Twitter, as well as receiving mail at her home or even personal visits. Sockness replied with his personal PayPal donation link, asking for donations meant for Christine to be sent to him to assure proper use. Sarah and Steve then asked Chris for advice on their Sonichu OCs, Sarah Chu and Stephen Chu, only to be surprised by the revelation that Christine recalled the characters through shared memories and that they in fact existed in Dimension C197. On November 7th, Ben Saint posted an illustrated image of his characters Phantom Horn and Strawberry Milk, deceased and corroded from the slime eliminating rain that was falling on them, implicating that Chris's actions caused their demise. Chris wrote that the picture was from an alternate timeline, while the two in the main timeline were safe in Quickville and then in the My Little Pony world of Equestria during the rain, so they were not affected by it. Also on that day, Righteous for Quick posted a curious photo on the subreddit Cult of Quick, of which he was the head moderator. It was taken by a supposed fellow worshipper of Christine, which depicted a seeming sermon in a church-like setting, showing three individuals deep in prayer, as the video in which Magichan purportedly speaks through Christine's body is projected onto the wall behind the podium. Later again, Chris posted newly created Twilight Sparkle's Secret Chipfic folder cards depicting the main characters of My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic, describing their future actions and achievements as was to occur in her foretold seasons 10 to 14 of the TV series. Chris commented that she had not watched the 3-part final episode of the show and would only do so after season 10 would air on the Discovery Family TV channel in the year 2020, and when Hasbro and the cast and crew of the series would confirm the news of the new season. The next day, spurred on by Jacob's proclamations of an oncoming war, along with deadly diseases and nuclear attacks between the two dimensions, Chris confirmed that bad things would happen to only the self-counterparts of haters and really bad people of the Earth in Dimension 1218, as they were all isolated to a certain troll city in C197. However, the Idea Guys, Joshua Wise, and Stephen Boyd would survive because they still owed Christine $6,000. Null and his pony persona, on the other hand, were fated to die. On November 9th, YouTube channel 3GI, which had previously organized the multi-creator created Shrek Retold video, which had featured a contribution from Christine, released a trailer for their upcoming collaborative remake of the 1996 original video animation Sonic the Hedgehog movie, which also would be comprising of contributions from various creators. The trailer featured a short clip from Chris's input, seemingly showing Sonic transforming into Sonichu.
Very brief, wasn't it?
Later on, after Christian-focused YouTuber Gibby began posting video updates concerning Chris and the actions of Sockness and Sarah and Steve, Sarah and Steve made their Twitter account protected, so only approved followers could view their posts. Jacob then threatened to release Gibby's private information.
Yeah, by the way, I must say this about Gibby, because he does sort of... He is a very background character insofar as the actual story of Chris is concerned, but it should be worth noting that Gibby was not falling for this bullshit about Sarah and Steve whatsoever, because if Sarah and Steve... When they resort to trying to dox somebody, you can already tell you that something's not quite right, because if Sarah and Steve were legitimately, completely and totally kosher about what they were doing, they would not have to resort to this. Doesn't that make sense, guys? Because this seems more akin to blackmail as well as doxing, if you ask me.
To the media and declared him an abuser of quote-unquote retarded people and transphobic because he did not address Chris by feminine pronouns. Sockness proceeded to post many short tweets, ranging from expressing his lust for Christine, who he found to be a mother-like figure, to voicing his disgust at Gibby, announcing him as his enemy. Also on that day, Ben Saint expressed his annoyance on his private Discord server after he ended his most recent comic on a cliffhanger, which placed his character Phantom Horn in a perilous situation, to which in response, Chris intervened in his storyline and drew a new trading card depicting them being rescued. On November 10th, Saint hosted a 4-hour-long livestream with Chris on the streaming site Twitch, during which they mostly discuss their respective comic universes, My Little Pony, politics, and religion.
Should I name a couple more mods? I feel like the chat is blown.
Can I make a suggestion? What do you guys think the likelihood is that by the time this live stream was over, we'll hear the words, Ben quickly deleted the live stream afterwards, but trolls managed to... No, not trolls. People managed to archive it and upload it onto Kiwi Farms. What do you guys reckon?
Blowing up with some randos, some jerks today.
Mr. Christian, you and I?
Yeah, Keyblade Spirit asks, I've got a question about the themes of your work, Chris. I found that Sonichu deals a lot with collision, both literally and ideologically. There are all kinds of collisions, all seeming to lead up to one final collision in the dimensional merge. Do you agree with that interpretation?
Collision. I'm gonna say among which, yes, since we do break the fourth wall a bunch of times.
That's true, and you have to collide with the fourth wall in order to break it.
Yep.
Yeah, alright. Okay, Chris, I don't know if you remember this, but years ago, I commissioned you to draw me something. Do you remember this? You probably don't, but it's actually, you can see it right here, where my finger is pointing on the stream. It's hanging up in my room, and I have kept it ever since.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah, essentially what happened to Liquid Chris.
Yeah, because he got pulled down the hole by the devil trolls, and then we never heard anything more about him.
Yeah, they took they took all the background imagery with him.
And I just really wanted to know what happened to him down there. And you answered it. I think this was like $50. This was like the best $50 I ever spent. I really appreciate it. Oh, Kazi Snap asks, are you doing No Nut November?
That's news to me. I have not heard that before.
Oh, you don't know about No Nut November? It's is in you just
I'll just take a pause here and let's just say this. No Nut November is one of the there is a genius behind it, but on the whole, it is one of the most insane and one of the most absolutely scandalous ideas I've ever heard for a challenge I've ever heard ever since those infamous like blackout challenges that people would do on TikTok, and it resulted in a lot of people succumbing to life-changing injuries. So take my advice, guys. Don't bother doing No Nut November, and don't concede to people doing no stop No Nut November either, because it's not a healthy thing to do.
You don't have sex or masturbate through November, and that's it. You don't nut.
You know what? That's every month out of the year for me, so it's a moot point.
Oh, Ali Banjo Twitch asks, how are your psychic abilities coming along?
Very well. I'll eventually be able to show a better example, but they're really progressing very well. I'm beginning to levitate things much better.
Really?
At least I'm making objects light, very lighter.
Magi-chan is he living with you right now?
Yes.
Okay. How's he doing?
He's working very hard. He's making sure everything progresses in the merge and everything goes smoothly and accordingly.
Good, yeah.
On November 12th, Jacob posted a transcript of a supposed conversation between Magi-chan and Jacob's alter ego, Michiro, in which Magi-chan apparently foretold that in order to conceive Chris's daughter, Crystal Weston Chandler, Chris was supposed to have sex with and impregnate her recent fundraiser organizer, Ali Hirschberg, who was female to male transgender. Christine wrote that Hirschberg was not likely to be the father of her destined child, and that the posted conversation was said to have been confirmed by Magi-chan to have taken place, though noted there were some discrepancies. Makers suggested that Magi-chan did not sound like himself in the transcript because Sockness made it all up. Chris rejected the claim, citing that Jacob's way of typing made Magi-chan sound different. The next day, Hasbro revealed their plans for a My Little Pony spin-off series called Pony Life, which Christine rejected, demanding seasons 10 through 14 of Friendship is Magic instead. In a plausible attempt to irritate her, Jacob theorized that Pony Life was actually the destined next 5 seasons of the show that Christine had foretold, a thought she angrily rejected.
I love the fact that this is, of all things, the sort of thing that legitimately would anger Chris, is bring everything back to reality. Bring the fact that this is of all things the thing that was going to trigger Chris the most. That's kind of hilarious.
November 16th, she posted a declaration rejecting Pony Life in favor of seasons 10 to 14 of Friendship is Magic to several different Twitter accounts that posted fan art of the new series, which she dubbed Go Pony, comparing it to the stylistically similar animated series Teen Titans Go. In addition, she posted a selection of new Twilight Sparkle's Secret Chipvic folder cards depicting seeming protests at Hasbro headquarters, attended by Chris-chan Sonichu, Nightstar, and the main 6 protagonists. One card in particular tells the story of Chris and Nightstar confronting the showrunning executives and demanding that they continue Generation 4 of Friendship is Magic, demands to which they heed. On November 19th, Chris's second garnishment case with second-round sub for unpaid debt was filed, setting the next hearing date for January 15th, 2020. On that same day, Christine posted on Twitter that it was once again time for the Chandlers to need more money, posting a link to her PayPal donation link, asking followers.
I'm glad, you know what, fair play, that literally the last 10 minutes of part 74, it does appear as though actually things are starting to come back full circle, as I'm glad they are, because let's not forget, Chris's financial situation in the last 2 months has not changed, outside of certain revelations, which should have been obvious from the beginning. And now we... And Chris is willing to lash out against stuff like My Little Pony, but not about the fact that she is heavily in debt over garnishment cases. And, well, this just goes so completely over Chris's head, by the way. This is not... honestly, if I was caught in this situation, I would have been stressed to fuck about this, because... Being in debt is low-key one of the worst things that could actually ever happen to somebody. And I would refrain from people from ever getting into debt. Don't do that. These things never... There's no happy endings for stuff like that.
Followers not to tell her to get a job or some shit like that. She added that it wasn't easy completing the dimension merge, with the restrictions and limitations of the real-world dimension, writing that if it were easy, she would have fully entered Dimension C197 and completed the merge over a year ago, so called for a stop to the hating and bad trolling. She soon after posted a photo of her mother, lying down and vacantly staring upward, claiming she was giving Chris grief regarding finances.
Are you sure about that, Chris? Or maybe Barb is giving Chris grief about just taking this very weird photo when she's just trying to relax. Who knows?
One user criticized her for showing an ugly side of her personality, to which she apologized, citing her being tired and overworked as the cause. She returned to reveal that she managed to get enough donations to keep the family stable for a while. Later on, after an inquisitive Twitter user asked her about the C quarters and W quarters as seen in the Sonichu comics, Christine elaborated that it was an idea conceived by the so-called Christine Chan, Chris's self-counterpart in Quickville, and the coins both equaled 25 US cents. Chris called it a crazy idea from Christine Chan among many, but admitted that she worked very hard to defend Quickville. On November 20th, Chris tweeted that she completed making the Nightstar and Friends expansion pack.
Okay, so now this is honestly so confusing. So there's a Christine, there's a Chris, there's a Christian, there's a Christopher, there's a colossal Chris Chan, there's Chris Chan Sonichu. Oh my god, this is. And now there's things like CPU Chris Chan, there's the Quick Cyclite, there's Chris Chan Nightstar, there's Chris Chan Solitude Special. Do you feel like you're succumbing to having a seizure, guys? Okay, right. Ow. Oh, God, I've got such a bad headache now thinking about it. Okay, don't worry, we're nearly finished. We can get through this.
Pack for the Twilight Sparkle's secret chipfic folder card game, which featured a card representing herself, Chris Chan Sonichu, the so-called OC of OCs, depicting her drawing of Chris Chan Sonichu with a new photo of herself imitating her character's power pose.
No, it's imitating Chris trying to bite onto a sandwich, because what is that?
On that same day, Jacob Sockness confessed that due to poor advice from his sugar daddy or elderly sexual partner who also provided him with monetary supplements, he did not have enough money to pay rent for his apartment in the near future, and also likely could not save enough to attend the BabsCon convention in 2020 and meet with Christine, who also seemed to not have enough money to attend either. The next day, Kiwi Farms moderator, The American Hedgehog, noted that the title of a 2010 Chris Chan YouTube video was cited in the Cambridge University published book, Colloquial English, Structure and Variation, which listed Christian's quote, "Tito got no luck against we Brits, Irish and Scots," as an example of using the nominative pronoun we in an accusative case. On November 22nd, Christine shared a link to her new website, quickvilleshopping.com, where she sold her custom-made expansion decks of cards for Twilight Sparkle's secret chipfic folder. Twitter followers complained about the high cost of the cards, but Jacob defended her, claiming he was going to use them as tarot cards, or a means of gaining insight into one's past, present, and future by drawing and interpreting cards. On November 26th, Chris livestreamed herself playing a solo game of Twilight Sparkle's secret chipfic folder for 1 hour and 36 minutes.
I am not reading your comments, so your hate is not being heard at all.
Yes, but that also comes at the expense of people who just want to see what on earth is going on, Chris. It's kind of a double-edged sword, this.
Hey, Maker, shout out to you, Maker. Here's your knifey. He's a good boy. And there's a cat. Off, boy. There she's our little baby. Get off the table. But without further ado, let's get to shuffling.
I'm not reading your comments. So, fully on you, haters.
Yeah, for why not? Since this is a gender change card, we'll just say the wow goes to his male now. We have Jamsta. There's another jerk up. Sandy. There's Walsh. There's Walsh. Okay? There's the epic online pony. And the remnants of fucking Bruce Spike. Fuck. Fuck the. Fuck the. No. Method acting. Okay. Don't hurry, girl. When this go when 3 male ships have been played in a single turn? Okay, so anyway, after this, also, I'm thinking my brain is going out of order. Essentially what's going to happen is I'm going to be talking with vendors and online sellers and who sell secret ship fit cards, and I'm going to talk with them, and I'll let them sell my deck and expansion packs between their websites and at conventions, including BabsCon. So,
hooray, I guess.
At around that time, one of Chris's paying patrons stated in a Discord conversation that they still had not received any Sonichu issues as promised. They also noted that their boyfriend had sent Christine a letter telling her to stop trusting Sockness, attempting to bribe her with $9 and some magic cards. On November 27th, after reading Jacob's most recent tweets, she confessed that even though she loved and cared for him, she could not be close to him due to unknown reasons caused by the merging of dimensions. She added that people should stop bullying Sockness for the things he said while under possession by Jacoba, after declaring news of a great struggle that was to take place between the Earths of 1218 and C-197 and the evil Rokot Empire of Kidasuna. She reiterated that she could not be Jacob's sweetheart and pleaded once again for people to stop bullying him. The following day, Jacob created a new Twitter account, Goddess Emmanuel, playing on Christine's belief of the feminine god creator, and shared with her a falsified direct message from YouTuber Gibby he made himself, which purported to show Gibby's communications with Null, revealing that he lied about Sockness in his videos, was part of the Idea Guy saga, and was directly involved with stopping the merge. Chris replied to Goddess Emmanuel, claiming that she knew of Gibby's vicious intentions and manipulations. However, her decision to push back Jacob's advances was not caused by Gibby's videos, and it was largely because Sockness had for the moment expended his usefulness. Chris remained confident that the merge would not be delayed and would not fail, in spite of Gibby's bullshit. Also on November 28th, she made 2 tweets to commemorate the American holiday of Thanksgiving, writing that she was thankful to be in better communication with her supposed spouses and new people she had met over the year. Furthermore, she was thankful for her growing powers and the dimension merge coming closer to fruition, and her abilities to discern the legit from the bullshit. After a decade-long cycle of bullying, mistakes, and ill-judgment-ridden adversity, Christine found solace after rejecting the reality that treated her so harshly, greatly aided by individuals seeking some semblance of internet notoriety, driven by the misguided belief that they were contributing to a story of historical note. Chris's life was one that no one should envy, nor influence, for if left to her own devices, she may not believe it was possible to escape her consequences in search of a better life.
And yes, in case you're probably wondering, I think this is when I'm pretty sure Gino must have gone on like another little mini break at this point, because I think it was by like about was this like 2022 or something like that? Let me have a quick look. Well,
The winter.
not quite. When was April 16th, 2023. I'm pretty sure, yes, this is, Gino was going to take a little bit of a break from this and then, like, move on to do, like, part 75, but what I find actually kind of I think probably the most interesting part about all this, about part 74, is the fact that despite everything we know, and despite we obviously know based on experience where these sorts of stories usually do end, it's kind of bizarre that it never once occurred to Chris that actually, guess what? There is only one thing that can actually come out of this, because it's been proven time and time again what happens to Chris when she puts too much stock into people online. But that will become clear in the next couple of weeks. So, I hope all of you guys enjoy part 74, and I cannot wait to see all of you guys again in the next video. So take care, and bye-bye for now.